Okay, recording.
Right? Okay, and Terry's
So I'm going
there.
to check the live stream, make sure that's going. Hi, Terry.
Hello.
Okay. Kira, you can hear us too?
We are live.
Okay.
I can hear you. I'm here.
Okay.
I can
Good
hear you.
afternoon. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Today is September 12th. This is a meeting of the Board of Education. Discussions concerning the performance of a Board of Education member. Executive session could be proposed. Exit announcements. If anybody needs to leave the room, are right here on the right and in the back of the room. You follow the doors out. And Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Per board policy, this meeting can either be held in public or executive session. Is there a motion from the board?
I would move that we hold it in public.
Second. Any
Second.
discussion? Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
To do a public meeting. Policy and proper etiquette require that the board member be notified by the agenda. Obviously, this is taking place because Jackie is here with us today. Thank you. It's important to note that the superintendent does not supervise the Board of Education. The superintendent is an employee of the Board of Education. As such, I have asked the superintendent not to be at the table today, just so there's a clarity of why usually the superintendent is up here. I want to start this off by reading a statement by the Connecticut Democratic leader and the Connecticut Republican leader that was posted yesterday. We are living in a challenging political times, and Wednesday's assassination of Charlie Kirk was not only served to further polarize many in the community. The two of us disagree on many policy and political issues, but we agree on 2 points. Violence is never the answer to any disagreements, and the only way we can stop violence is by working together to bring down the temperature of the political rhetoric. Now is the time for public officials and advocates to step back and think about rhetoric impacts and the influences it has on the people around us. As leaders of our respective parties and to leaders of the government, it is imperative that we work together on this issue. Violence is unacceptable against a Republican or a Democrat or anyone of any political belief because we disagree with opinions they hold. We bring about change through debate, discussion, and at the ballot box. Obviously, they wrote this yesterday. On this day, the anniversary of one of the greatest tragedies of our nation has ever suffered, we are reminded that America is the greatest when we all work together. The task is not an easy one, but America is worth the effort. I have a couple of other things that I'm gonna let you all speak. 2 years ago, when this Board of Education came together, we all agreed that whether we were Republicans, Democrats, or other parties, we would keep politics out of the board business, work cohesively as a team to serve the children and the staff in our district, with the goal being on the student achievement. This is not the first time the Board of Education has dealt with social media posts made by board members. In 2020, when Laurel and I joined the board, there were offensive posts made by 2 board members. At that time, we tried to address the issue. Unfortunately, we could not get the board to agree to have a full board meeting to discuss rules. There was 2 against 7. The reason I bring this up is because, one, these situations have been ongoing since social media has become a popular mode of expression. And why, when I started my term as the chair, I held professional development by CABE, and one of the topics was social media. And again, we discussed this with Tom Mooney last year. So what makes this different? A, we're a different board, and it's different times. And as the chair, when situations get to the point that I, as chair, need to leave my paid job and go sit in central office for hours due to the number of calls coming in. And as I noted at the beginning of this meeting, the superintendent is not in charge of the Board of Education members. People stopping in to see the first selectman in the parking lot to speak to her about a Board of Education member, this board has an obligation to ensure that the superintendent can do her job, and the board has an obligation to address the concerns of the community and the roles of volunteering in the school and provide that information to the superintendent. The first selectman notified me that she had received over 25 messages. The Board of Education received over 24. Board members themselves also received additional ones. Especially when there's a large amount of confusion, whether a board member is a teacher or a volunteer. This is another, I wanted to have a meeting to address that as well. It is the superintendent's job to keep the school safe and comfortable environment for all of our students, our staff, and our community at large. The emails that we've received, I forwarded them to the active board members, and I usually don't read them all off at board meetings. I'm not going to read them all off at this meeting either, in the interest of time. Everybody has received them. I do want to clarify, the state law does not allow the Board of Education members to remove a member of the Board of Education. Board members are elected officials. I have formally investigated this several times. A few years ago, the state did look at adding language into a bill that would allow this. However, it did not pass. Removal of board members takes place at the ballot box. Many emails pointed to the board bylaw number 9222, which I brought a copy of. And the name of that is resignation/removal of officer and censure. I want to bring to the attention of everybody who has called for a removal of a board member and citing bylaw 9222. This is for removing an officer of the board, not for removing a board member. Only officers can be removed by a board vote, 2/3 board vote. The board has limited ability and can only do censorship. I did clarify that too in my trustee book from Tom Mooney, which is the Connecticut law book, and have that referenced as well if anybody needs that. Censorship is a formal hearing process, and it does require many steps. Should the board wish to do a formal censorship, I would need legal counsel to provide all the necessary steps for that due process. I will state that the process would exceed 2 months, which is much longer than the term of several of our board members. This board would also have to consider whether or not it wants to spend money on those resources and where do we want to focus our time in the next 2 months. all of that being said, this is not the first time either that this board has had to address behaviors. Another board member was removed from all committees for behaviors soon after I took chair. One of the roles of the chair of the board is to assign committees, and the chair does have the authority to assign and remove board members from committees. As some of you may have heard when they listened to the policy subcommittee meeting yesterday, I did notify the board member, Jackie, that she would not be on the policy subcommittee at this time. And I just want to remind all of us, like Cabe has told us, elected officials are held to a higher standard, whether you're at the board table or in your personal life. And there's also the First Amendment right to the freedom of speech. So there are sometimes no easy answers. Jackie, do you want to say anything?
I was hoping to wait until I heard from each member of the board before.
Okay. Board members? Jim?
Some of you know I'm an English teacher by trade, and I have a tendency when things are particularly important to kind of write things out in advance. So I'm going to read to you. Please don't be offended by that. Friends and neighbors, most people who know me know that I'm a liberal at heart, but I like to think of myself as a pragmatic liberal, one who does not compromise his own values, but understands the importance of not asking the others to do that either. For me, one of the joys of working on this board has been coming to know and count as real friends a lot of folks I did not know before. Many of them are Republicans, but despite being on opposite ends of the political spectrum, I would pretty much do anything they ever needed to help them if I could, and I'm pretty confident they would do the same for me, and I'm grateful for that. When I first presented my candidacy to the Democratic Town Committee, I made it clear I was not running for the DTC. I was running for kids and families. I actually told them openly that if I had followed someone who spoke eloquently about doing the best for the DTC, and I openly told them, if that's what you're looking for, don't put me up here, because that's not what I'm in it for. I'm in it for the kids. To their credit, they put me up anyway. Upon joining the board, Terry Garrity, Kira Thompson, and I joined Patty Stricker and Laura White in a 2-year struggle against the regime that did not share our values. 2 years later, we got control of the board and began making essential, difficult changes. We had already made it clear that the superintendent at the time had no future here. He left, and we hired a highly skilled and profoundly hardworking woman whose values, like my own, are all about taking care of kids and families. The principal saw the writing on the wall, and he left. And a few short months later, it became clear that he'd been presiding over a cesspool when terrible problems with racism became public, problems of which we had all been completely unaware. At least I can say that for myself. I think everybody was. Subsequently, we hired a new principal, a deeply learned woman with great experience whose values again mirrored those of the board. Kids and families come first. Another administrator saw the writing on the wall, and he has now left as well. And there is no question in my mind that the care of our special needs population will be improving dramatically. During this time, we made real changes to policies. By last count, we're up over 60 major policy revisions processed in 2 years. Most of them, and by most I mean like 57 or 58, most of them are completed and now in effect. And if anybody's interested, I have a tracking document I keep. Feel free, and I will share it with you. The policies demand greater transparency, greater accountability. In a district that had previously ceded all board responsibility for curriculum and major curricular materials, we are reasserting that role. Astonishingly, no curriculum had come to the board for approval in at least 6 years. despite the fact that the law clearly requires board approval for all curriculum. That's state law, it's required. I never heard of anything like this when I started this place. I spent 32 years in public education. I never heard of anything like it. The board had ceded all of its authority. Through all of this, the board has remained united. Only one board member, a prior chairman who disappeared after the last election and has refused to attend a single meeting, is not a member of the team. He's the only one. We tried to address this in his history of racist Facebook posts, but learned that the only thing we could do was to remove him from his committee assignments. Ms. Stricker did that a long time ago. Still, the state has no legal mechanism for removing elected officials, even when they are blatantly racist, even when they have failed to attend any meetings for 2 years straight. Many are calling for us to remove Ms. Endorf from the board now. We can't. We have tried in the past. The law allows us no legal mechanism to do what obviously needs to be done. I speak to you now as a man in a leadership role who is all too familiar with my own shortcomings, and all too ashamed, frankly, of things I've done and said in the past. Fortunately, those things occurred years ago when I was a private citizen. When the town honored me with this role, the importance of the role and the nature of the trust played in my hands weighed heavily on me. They still do. When I met Ms. Endorf, I saw a bright, dedicated woman, anxious to learn and committed to being of service. I worked very hard to mentor her, but I also learned that she had a penchant for poor judgment and unthinking statements and actions. I believed then, and I believe now, that her heart's in the right place, but her unthinking passion leads her astray, and it just doesn't work. Politically, I have nothing positive to say about Mr. Kirk, but I'm a father, and he has young children, and children so young, in fact, that they will likely never retain any memory of the father they have now lost. There is simply no way to survive that loss unharmed. And at 3 and 1, these children are too young to have been harmed in any way more significant than a mosquito bite. And yet they have been. And I may not have agreed with any he said or advocated, but I'm willing to bet that we had something in common, one core thing. We both love our children and our wives. What the shooter did is unforgivable and unpardonable. There's really nothing else to be said. There was a time when I saw Ms. Great promise in Ms. Endorf, but she not only spewed hate in that Facebook post, she linked it to his children. Everyone is up in arms that they called Mr. Kirk a Nazi. For me, saying that we should ignore the pain suffered by his children, whose father was gunned down for simply exercising his right to free speech, well, that's intolerable. The day may come when Miss Endorf will have grown sufficiently to again be of use and value to this community. But for now, she is anathema. Jackie, you posted what seems like a heartfelt apology on Facebook. Let me tell you something. Years ago, my father taught me something very simple. He was not educated. He was very plain spoken. And he looked at me and he said, Jim, only your real friends will tell you when your breath stinks. I knew what he meant even as a kid. Your real friends will tell you what you need to hear. Your acquaintances and your fake friends will tell you what you want to hear. I'm furious with you right now. I'm not going to deny that. I still think you have great potential. I still think you have a role in leadership someday. But the most kind, loving thing I can tell you right now is the truth, and that means if you meant that apology, if you meant any of it at all, then resign from the board right now. Please. This is serious. This is not a political cartoon. Resign from the board and resign from your role as a volunteer at that school. End this meeting the only productive way it can end, with this board accepting your resignation, regretfully, frankly, and you're apologizing the only way you can that might convince others of your sincerity. And if you won't do it for the board itself, do it for the kids and the families. Do it to model integrity and personal accountability for Theo. Do it for the parents who are right now afraid to have you anywhere near their children. Do it for your Democratic friends who, like me, hated what came out of Kirk's mouth, but would die defending his right to say it. Do it for Republicans in this town who are furious at your callousness. Do it for the kids whose schools are actively being threatened with budget boycotts from people who are all too justifiably questioning the integrity and judgment of the people to whom they send their tax dollars. Do it for your racist board ally, who, like you, is dropping off in November anyway, so that he can see what honor actually looks like. But for God's sake, Jackie, do it. It is time for you to walk away.
Any other board members want to speak before Jackie? Terry, you out there? Kira?
I am, and I can you hear me?
I
Yes.
can hear you, yes.
I echo many of Jim's sentiments. As a parent and a board member, and as someone who has come before the previous board and spoken about a lot of concerns that I had with social media posts that were extremely offensive, and also being the only person of color on this board, the only Black woman on this board. It's time that we all really take a step back and think about what we say, what we post, and that there is accountability for that. That being said, I've known Jackie for a few years now. I personally don't believe that she did this with malintent. However, as Jim said, when you speak and you are representing many children, you are a board member, and that has to be taken seriously. We all work very diligently and with sacrifice. I myself, right now, I'm on the way to seeing my child who's in the hospital. And yet here I am, in the car, on this meeting, because of the level of importance that this is. That being said, whether you agree with the things that Charlie Kirk said, whether you disagree with the things that Charlie Kirk said, there's many of us on the board that have suffered a great loss. Whatever your political belief is, we are all in this country and we all have a right to express ourselves. It is our right. It is a freedom that has been endowed. And when we start to spew hateful words, even in an unthinking manner, it sends a very scary message. I don't want any part of that. And I agree with Jim at this point. I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but Jackie, I believe you should step down. I wish your counterpart would as well. If you have any level of integrity left. That's all I have to say.
Kira, I know you're still out there. Anybody else? Kira, do you want to speak next? I worry about connections.
I'll be honest, the only time it cut out was when Jackie spoke. So I missed what she had to say.
So why don't we
I did-
pause there and just let
What's that?
Jackie tell you what she said. She just wants to speak after everybody else. Is that all you
Okay.
said, Jackie? Go ahead.
I consider obviously Jackie a good friend because our board interactions, our children's interactions. I have a really hard time with what she posted. I actually will agree with Jim. Really, it's the second portion of what she wrote in the Facebook post, and it's like elected official 101, if that makes any sense, that you need to be so careful of what you say and what you do. And I feel like that starts with before you even become an elected official. Like, for instance, when I ran for the board, I just reviewed my Facebook to make sure there's nothing that would offend anybody. And I think she really missed the mark here. And it's really insulting because we are Board of Education members, and it has to do with children, innocent children who will not have their father because of political rhetoric. And that's her post is continuing that. So I mean, I'm sorry, but it's not comforting at all to me.
Laurel, Taya, Sean?
I do.
Yep.
I have to regretfully agree with everybody. And the reason being is that since I've been on this board, we have tried to institute a level of integrity ever increasing. And I am not innocent, Jackie. I have done things and said things on Facebook. I had to get off of it. I'm done. It's over because it is toxic and it's addictive. You react, you don't even have time to think. It's become this visceral response when sometimes we see these things. So it's so easy to fall into the trap, but like Kira said, it is politics 101. And I will tell you, I did it running out of the gate. My very first attempt, knocking on doors, and I blew Carlene out of the water. And it blew up in my face. It's a huge problem. And this is our environment now. So we want this level of integrity. We want the community to trust us, and equating violence with children, however unintentionally, that is a no-go, especially in the educational world. So like Jim said, many of his points, please do the honorable thing, step down.
Taya or Sean?
Good afternoon, everybody. It's been a tough couple days, real weighted on the shoulder, so I had to scribble some notes down. So again, like Jim, forgive me for reading off, but I'd like to start by saying, the comments made on Facebook the other day in no way, shape, or form represent the opinion or the position of our East Haddam Board of Education as a whole. I wholeheartedly disavow the comments made in every way. Personally, being a practicing Christian conservative, I am a big fan of Charlie Kirk. And as a father of 4 young children, I looked up to his faith-based values he spread to our youth, and am greatly saddened by the comments being made over this tragedy. I also believe, as an appointed member of the East Haddam Board of Education, it is our duty to represent our community in the most professional way possible, and always having the absolute best interest of our children at all times. And sometimes, Jackie, poor decisions bring consequences. With that said, my personal opinion, I've known Jackie for 3 to 4 years now. She's been to my house for my children's birthday parties. Shag Bark stood next while manning the booths as she gave away flowers and potted plants and coloring activities to the kids. Helping out on the soccer field, opening day at baseball, Little League, countless school PTO events. During those times, Jackie has shown nothing but the utmost respect to both myself and my children. I do greatly appreciate that. A wise man once told me, and by wise man I mean my 8-year-old son, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words can never hurt me. This saying has been around longer than I've been alive. And don't get me wrong, I am in no way putting down what was said or trying to undermine the level of divisiveness that caused. But this saying's been around longer than I'm alive, and I'm afraid that that has been forgotten over time. And this is why we're really here today, is because of words, personal thoughts, which equates to freedom of speech. And I'm afraid if we set a precedence in this matter and we try to draw a hard line in the sand today, where may that lead us in the future? But as the chair has stated, Jackie, this is your decision, and I just hope you do what you think is best for our community. Thanks for your time.
I think that effective conversations come from honest composure and respect. The manner in which it was done this time wasn't effective. This occurrence was not alone, though, as we all know. There are many elected officials and people who speak hateful words out of hurt and out of pain. As a board member, I did expect different. I do expect our board to come to the public in a more complete way. Because one person can create a precedent for an entire group that we don't all agree on. It's important that we have a decorum when we serve as elected officials, and it's important that we do our work in a way that makes our community feel safe. The safety has been breached, and I also know that we will restore it.
Do you want to say anything, Jackie? Yep, I'm just gonna, echo, Sean's statement, which I forgot to put into my notes as well. And this is what I replied to every email. As the chair of the Board of Education, I was made aware of a social media post that was made by a board member on their personal page. It should be noted that this board member is acting on her own as an individual and does not represent the viewpoints of nor speak for the Board of Education. Yesterday, when the phones were going crazy here at central office and I had called in, I had made a decision to come in here because our superintendent could not get her work done, and her job is not to take phone calls and deal with board members' behaviors. And I think I was very taken back by a comment that was made by a staff member in central office whose grandfather, I believe it was a grandfather who had called in, or a son whose grandfather was held in a Nazi concentration camp. And the staff member was almost in tears because of what was said on there and his experiences of what he had heard from his grandfather. That was heart-wrenching to me. I think it's heart-wrenching when staff members are almost brought to tears in regard to social media posts. And yes, we all have our freedom of speech, and we definitely don't want to curb that. But once again, we go over this at CABE. We've had 2 workshops in 2 years, and we've talked extensively on rights of freedom and about posting. And the bottom line is, when you are an elected official, all eyes are on you. And I think that you have to decide what you want to do about that. That's what I have to say.
I didn't prepare anything to say because I wanted to hear what everybody had to say and respond directly. I did just jot down a few notes because I know that I can get distracted or on a tangent. I wanted to try to keep it together. I own the post. I wrote it. And it was not my best. The language and the words that I chose to use. Had I paused, like I tell my kids and like we all talk about, pause before reacting. I'm not here to make excuses. I wrote it. I hit post. I put it out there and I went to bed. For what it's worth, and it might be worth nothing. I was terrified and angry. Sorry, I'm not trying to like do tears. I'm not making you feel bad. I just that there had been another school shooting. And as I look through my very, narrow lens, our algorithms are on purpose created to show us more of what we've seen. And as I went through it, I was angry and I was in my feelings. My thought was, why aren't, in my view, I didn't see anything about the shooting in Colorado. And yes, I used the term Nazi, and I apologize. That's on me, I own it. My feeling, which again, emotions first, not my best suit, not my best characteristic, was why are we only giving thoughts and prayers to somebody's wife and children and not giving the thoughts and prayers to those that were in the Colorado shooting and what's happening around. And the way I worded it sucked. It was bad. And I don't blame anybody for speaking out against it. I was honestly, and this is truthful, I am impressed with the amount of people in the community who called, who emailed, and showed up, because that's what we need. I think if more people did that. So it was not, yes, everything is political. It was not a political post. My intention is not perception. My intention was anger and frustration. Why are we not discussing this also? It absolutely had nothing to do with religion at all. I did see how some community members felt that it was. Again, tell my kids there's two truths. I know nothing is private online. I know social media is not real life. I know that we are a very small town. And I know that my values and beliefs and opinions and thoughts are not shared by many. I also don't necessarily keep them hidden. If anybody's seen my van, it's covered in stickers. But I also know that being a part of a small community means that our kids are on soccer teams and baseball teams together. I volunteer for several things. I'm in the school with the garden. And though, yes, I put the post on Facebook, everybody saw it, and that was wrong. I've never, ever let those personal thoughts and beliefs overflow into the time that I spend with all of our children. The same way that I know and I believe that other people in this community that are teachers, coaches, anything, that also volunteer with the community, that I don't agree with what they believe either, but I also know and trust that they're not putting that on the kids. And those that know me know me. Many of you do not know me. I don't expect you to believe me or have faith in that, because we have not had those interactions. I am very, very proud of what I have done within the community. Not speaking separately from my time on the Board of Ed. With the community, I spend most of my free time with kids and students and youth, working in the schools and with other organizations. I am thankful that this was a public meeting. I had sent an email earlier asking, before I knew we were gonna have a vote, if I could just say, I want it public, I want transparency, I want everybody to feel heard. And I hear my fellow board members. I broke a trust that we all had in each other. And I know this isn't personal. And what I heard was majority of the board would like for me to step down, and I will honor that.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to get like.
It's okay.
It's okay.
It's fine.
It's all right. We understand, Jackie.
The organizations and the time that I spend in the community is very important to me. I don't brag about it. I know that I'm working with people in the community that don't share my values and they don't share mine, and that's okay. I love going to Shadmarks and helping them, and they help the school. I know we're not voting for the same people. I know that big picture, we're all over the place, but I also know that on a community scale and what we're doing for the kids is what's most important. And I missed the mark on the board. I missed the mark as a representative of the board. This isn't the first time I know that I've done it. I just think that this was the most felt by community members. But I would like to continue the conversation, not right now, please, but in the future, of my role and volunteering in the community, because that is one of the most important things to me and my kids and the relationships that I have. So if it's okay to pause on that one, I hear you. I'll thank you for being honest. I know this was not easy. And yes, I will step down from the board.
Jackie, for what it's worth, there's none of us here who don't have equal, and in my case, more reasons to be embarrassed and ashamed. We've all had to do our own little comeback story. I still think your heart's in the right place. I know you've been real angry with me at times, and I know some of that I deserved, and some of it, frankly, you were the one who needed to do it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
But I don't ask anything of you that I wouldn't or haven't done myself, and that includes giving you the opportunity to make your comeback story. The time will come. You have a good heart. There's no question in my mind. That has never been questioned. I still want to wring your neck, but I'd like to do it with a shoulder rub while I'm doing it.
I think I'll let other people speak. Anybody want to speak, or do you want me to just speak and wrap this up? Thank you, Jackie. We appreciate all your time and all your efforts and everything that you have done for the board. And that will not go unnoticed. And in regard to volunteering at school, I agree for all purposes right now to take a pause on that. It's actually not normally the board's role to get involved in who volunteers and who does not volunteer at the school. I know we have spoken about chaperones, and we've spoken about policies, and that's probably going to be coming back up again. after we finish our plethora of state laws that we need to update. So gardening season's almost coming to a close, so my recommendation is let's take a pause through this gardening season. And if you're agreeable to that without going through any formal steps, sorry, clients. What did they think? And then we can revisit it in the spring. How does that sound?
And for those who may not know, I was volunteering in the schools and in the community far before I decided to run for the Board of Ed. So one is not exclusive with the other. And personally, I found it more difficult to have the time for being in the community because of my time on the board, and because of that, I was not running for re-election anyway because I wanted to have that time. That was a decision that I made months ago. It wasn't in a reaction.
Is there anybody else that wants to speak? Terry, Kira? Kira, are you still out there?
I am.
Okay. Do either of
Yeah,
you want to speak? I'm gonna call Terry first.
Jackie, I'm glad that you made the decision that you did. I think it's in the best interest of this board and of the public as well. I do not believe that you would intentionally say anything to harm someone. However, as everyone said, we have to be mindful of our words and our actions. I know personally that you have a great mind for what's right and what's wrong. And so you've made that decision with that in mind today, and I'm proud of you for that. Our communities have to learn how to manage working with each other and a level of compassion that kind of encompasses understanding different political viewpoints without having to put rhetoric out there that sows the seeds of division. And I think this entire situation was a perfect example of that. Everybody take a step back, take a breath, and understand that our words do have impact, and that we have to make sure that we are respectful, even if we disagree. So the last thing I want to say is, since I have been on this board, and this incoming board, I want to make sure that we continue to work well together. I echo exactly what Patty had mentioned earlier. We hired a new superintendent, and this sitting board has made amazing strides in terms of changing policy and putting things into place that ensure equity and inclusion and a fair voice for everyone. That being said, I ask the public to also be mindful of the rhetoric that you spew, because words have impact. Thank you.
Kira, do you have anything?
I appreciate the meeting. I appreciate Jackie coming, and I look forward to speaking to her, just the two of us. And I think it's big, and it's scary. I mean, we've all, I think, from getting to know Jackie on the Board of Ed level side, it's hard to do these public meetings, and we've said it, and I don't want to keep beating it in, but there's so much time we do here. There's so much time consumption, and that doesn't go unnoticed for anybody sitting at that table. And I appreciate the coming together on a whim on a Friday afternoon.
Anybody else? Motion to adjourn?
So
Oh,
moved.
okay. Second,
Second.
any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Bye, Kira. Bye, Terry.
Bye, guys. Drive carefully.
Aye. No,
Bye.
I'm being driven.